We were always friendly with each other, but we always regarded each other with intense suspicion because there was always like, well, they're doing better than we are. I got cursed by somebody, so I went to see this witch doctor, and he gave me this potion to wash myself all over with, and we did all this and did this ritual, and he said, okay, that's going to hold them back, but you're going to have a lot of bad luck in the next few years. It was really weird, and whilst I was away, it went higher and higher up the charts. So during that week, it went up the charts higher. When I got back, got asked to do Top of the Pops again. But when I returned, suddenly I was a pop star. It was very odd. I'd gone away without no one knowing who we were. And then by the time I got back in that 5-6 day period, everything had changed with it. And we play with our full hearts and souls all out there on the stage. We give everything we've got. And we rock till we drop. That's what Jericho shows are about. They're high energy and their full commitment.
Oh, brilliant. What a treat for fans.
So welcome to the Tuesday 80 Zoom room, Mark. It's really lovely.
Thank you very much.
For the first time. We've never spoken to you before. So it's lovely to actually meet you.
Great, thank you.
Well, just fresh from some special gigs you did at Pizza Express, aren't you, in Holborn?
That's right, yeah.
How did all that go?
Great. I do acoustic shows there myself and my guitarist Ollie Brum is brilliant. Ollie, I have my electric band and I have my acoustic band, and it's just Ollie and I together. So Ollie's not in the electric band. The electric band aren't on the acoustic shows. But they're great. I mean, Pizza Express Live, there was only 5 of them, and they're all jazz venues. And sadly, 2 of them are closed down. Maidstone and Birmingham have closed down because they lost their leases or whatever. But they've still got Kings Road, Soho, and Holborn, and I absolutely love them. I always play Holborn because, I mean, the acoustics are astonishing because they are purpose-built. They're not, people get the wrong idea. People think it's like you're playing a pizza club, and it's not. They're not just like pizza restaurants. These places are purpose-built. They got like a 15 grand PA in there. So the sound systems are astonishing.
Yeah.
You have a Steinway grand piano, not that I play, but if you want one, they have one.
Wow.
And the sound engineers are absolutely brilliant. The guy who always works with us is amazing. Justin, he's fantastic. And to be honest, I mean, you couldn't get a better clarity of sound. And when you're doing an acoustic show, it's really important to have great acoustics because it's literally myself and a guitarist, and we use live loops that he creates on the spot.
That's very raw.
So it's kind of, we've been doing it for a long time. It's kind of what Ed Sheeran started doing. I was doing it before he was born, pretty much. But it's just his are a lot more technical than ours. I think he has somebody on the side helping him to do it.
He hasn't got your experience.
No, well, I think he's got a much more sophisticated setup. He's obviously brilliant.
With obviously these intimate gigs, you've also in the 2020s you've played lots of festivals, haven't you? What do you prefer playing? Is it just you like both of them, or because the festivals obviously have got a huge
I love them all.
crowd.
I mean, they're very different. I mean, difficulty with playing festivals. If you're playing outdoors, you can't control the sound. There's nothing for the sound to bounce back on. So so sometimes it's like you can be singing as loud as you like, and you still can't hear yourself. So it can be very difficult from that point of view. And the festivals I played this year, it either been pouring with rain or belting.
Oh, no.
One festival was incredibly hot. But I've been playing some great shows. I'm playing things like Forever. I'm playing gigs at like Northern Kin and Sign of the Times, and they're great. The people that run them are brilliant. And the other bands on there are great. So I really like the aspect of the fact you go there and you see loads of bands and all the dressing tents are next to each other. So we had Jill Solomon, we did Northern Kin, we had Jill Solomon on one side, and you see people you haven't seen for a long. I saw Mark Brzezicki, Big Country on. So
we love him. He's lovely, yeah. Mark.
So they were there, and then there's some young and upcoming, up and coming musicians there as well. So you get to meet and hear people you wouldn't normally perhaps cross and Dread Zone were playing before us. Mike Peterson, the Alarm, is a very good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's amazing. You kind of get to work and see people that is perhaps I've known Mike for a long time, but you wouldn't really. We don't always get to go and see each other live. When we do those festivals, we get to see each other, which is really nice.
There must be a good
And
community spirit.
yeah, so I enjoy the festivals for that. And it's always a challenge because the band before you have laid down their gauntlet and said, right, beat that. And you've got to raise your game. So I very much like the competitive aspect of it. Even though it's very friendly,
Yeah.
it's still, and I love the fact that you get to play to different crowds, which I think is fantastic because whereas if you play your own gigs, you're kind of playing to your own fans. And I love the people that come to my gigs. They're amazing. And I'm very lucky to have the support I have. But it's great to have to try and win a crowd over. Let's Rock shows are great fun. They're great fun. Let's Rock. I mean, you see all your old mates, like Tony Hadley and people like that. I love. I did a show recently. I did a show a couple of weeks ago, and Martin Kemp was on the bill, and it was great to see Martin. And I haven't seen him for ages. And just you're getting the guys from Go West and all these people, ABC, all these different bands. So I love that aspect of it. But having said that, I also love the intimate nature. It's nice to play to your own crowd and be able to concentrate on your own music. When I play to my own crowd, I can play whatever I want.
Yeah.
So I can play songs from any of my albums. Whereas when you tend to play festival crowds, you've kind of got to play your greatest hits, in my case, your greatest hits, and then you've got to play your best in album tracks. Whereas when I play to my own crowd, I can play whatever I want, and they tend to like it. So that's kind of nice.
It's a relationship backstage with all those great acts, slightly different from back in the 80s. Was there a little? Is there?
Yeah,
sort of less
it's much
rivalry?
nicer. I mean, there is. We were always friendly with each other, but we always regarded each other with intense suspicion because there was always like, well, they're doing better than we are. To be honest, I mean, most of the people that I've met over the years, like you did Top of the Pops, and you'd walk there. Most of the people that I've met, like Wet, 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 and all these people, were lovely. Absolutely amazing, and they're really nice and really friendly, and you'll meet for a drink afterwards or whatever, and it's a great leveler because you're all kind of in the same boat. But these days, if I do a festival, we walk in and everyone's like, hey, what are you doing? We see each other. It's fabulous because there is a lovely community spirit. We've all survived, like Carol Decker. I see Carol I did a show in Blackpool a little while ago, and I've done shows with Carol since back in the early 80s.
You did one for Ukraine, didn't you? You did one for Ukraine for the benefit song.
We did that, myself, Nick Hayward, Doctor and the Medics, Gary Christian, Carol, and Kelly Barnes, who's an amazing singer. We did a track together.
She's incredible.
She's astonishing. Kelly's lovely lady and one of the greatest voices in the world. One of the sort of truly great unsung heroes of rock and roll because she sings for so many different bands. Like ABC and Heaven 17, she sang with me, and kind of, she's just brilliant. There's a lot of talent out there that don't get the credit,
Yeah, we saw her on stage with Heaven 17 at Chillfest. Then she was on stage later that night with Mark Armand,
and the voice was still amazing.
With who?
The energy.
Mark Armand at the end.
Kelly. God, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, the last show I did with Kelly, she did I think she did Mark. I think she may have sung with Holly Johnson, sang with me, sang with ABC, sang with Heaven 17. You're like, she's perfect. I mean, and the thing is, I mean, there's 2 or 3 girls that do the circuit as well with her. She puts great teams together, and they're all equally brilliant.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is that they make people like me sound great. I don't normally use backup singers when I work on my own gigs. So sometimes it's really nice to have that because it kind of adds something else to the music. Especially at a festival, it means you get someone to show you where the note is actually supposed to be.
Now, just to go back over some of your huge successes in the 80s, Mark, with Ben Jerico, you had two top 40 albums back in the day. The first one called First, and that was in 87, wasn't it? And then The Big Area, and that got to number 4 in 19.
Yeah, well, the first one initially was released in 86 and didn't do too well. It did okay, but we hadn't really had a hit. So we stuck it out anyway, and you kind of learn that you need a hit single to have a hit album in those days anyway. Then it was re-released in 87, and it did pretty good. And it went gold, so I'm pleased with that. But you had a lot of records to chart in those days.
You also had 4 top 40 singles, didn't you, during that time?
I believe so, yeah. We had a couple that bounced off the 40. We had a couple that sort of went to like 42 or 45 and stuff. And then about 4 that went in the top 40, a couple that went top 20.
Your first single, The Motive, spent 6 weeks in the top 20. And I read that it was the most played record on BBC Radio 1 in 1987. So that's a good feat. What was it like when that came into the charts? What was it like to crack the big time?
That was amazing for us. We hadn't had much success. Everything we released almost made it and didn't quite. And then that happened. And to be honest, it was a very strange story because it went into the top 40. And then I tell this story quite a lot, but it still gets my goat. So that's why I tell it. It's the fact that Gallup accused London Records of hyping their acts, hyping the Fine and Cannibals to be specific.
Ah.
So in other words, faking their sales. So what they did was they handicapped all the records that were released on London Records that week. There was only 2 records. One was the Cannibals, the other was
ours. No.
So we then got busted back out of the 40. So we thought we were in the top 40. We thought we had a hit. It was like the last single off the album. And they said, if this isn't a hit, we're going to drop you. Went in the 40, went back out again. So I thought it was all over. Got on a plane, flew to America. I hadn't had a holiday in God knows how long. So I lived years. So I went to spend 6 days on Fire Island off the coast of New York. And by the time I touched down, I got to where I was staying, got a phone call from the head of the record label, and he said, it's gone back in the 40. You better get on the plane. You've got Top of the Pops. I turned straight around, get back on the plane. It was amazing because I hadn't had any sleep for about 2 days. Landed back at Heathrow or Gatwick, whatever, to be met by a gaggle of sort of tabloid journalists. And I thought, hello, something's going on here. And that was kind of it. I had a fast car to take me straight to the Top of the Pops. I was hanging. I was knackered.
Oh, I bet you'd had a bit of champagne on that flight.
Well, I may have had a couple.
23. Then Jerico, The Motive.
We all decided it'd be a very good idea to go out for the evening. So myself and all the band and the record company took us out, and we drank till about 4 a.m. And I was then asked to do the cover of Smash Hits at 8 o'clock the next day. So I had to drag myself up. I was like, from having been, sort of the best known obscure band in Britain, suddenly it was happening. So I'd Top of the Pops and got the cover of Smash Hits. Then I had to get straight in a car and be driven at high speed back to the airport because I said, I'm going back to finish my 4-day holiday, another 4 days. So I went back, I was determined because I knew that was it. And it was really weird. And whilst I was away, it went higher and higher up the charts. So during that week, it went up the charts higher. When I got back, got asked to do Top of the Pops again. But when I returned, suddenly I was a pop star. It was very odd. I'd gone away without no one knowing who we were. And then by the time I got back in that 5-6 day period, everything had changed. And people outside my door, and there were photographers following me down the street. It was a really odd experience. But then the following single didn't do so well. It was a remix of our previous single, which was called Muscle Deep. And that song's about prejudice. But we did a lot of work for Artists Against Apartheid. We took the banner, or the first band that took their banner on the road. And I released a version of that with loads of Artists Against Apartheid symbolism and imagery within the video and on the record sleeve, because I designed all the record sleeves. And it went to like 37 in the charts, and then something like that. And then I think Radio 1 decided to ban it because the lyrics were too violent. But in actual fact, it's pretty clear that it was to do with the fact that it had a political edge to it. It was about apartheid, which was still a very contentious, controversial subject. So they banned that. So that plummeted. So then we went away and wrote the second album. And during that time, we built up a lot of following, kept gigging, kept writing, recorded the second album. We'd already recorded Big Area, and we had 35,000 pre-orders on it. So when we released the single, it went straight into it went to number 20, but Gallup thought it was very weird that all of a sudden this band that had been away for a year suddenly had another hit. Well, just that kind of band. I mean, some bands have different sales patterns to others. So then they had.
Sorry, that was everywhere. I mean, if you pick out real 80s, top hits of your memory, that will be in that pinnacle, because it was played everywhere.
Thank you.
It's such a great song.
And
Well, you know, it was weird.
going back to Top of the Pops, I was actually in the audience when you performed Big Area on Top of the Pops. Back in
You were not.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
I
were.
was, yeah. I've got it on video still. Yeah,
It's got the evidence.
You probably could have got. You're probably lucky you still got any teeth left, because I had to swing my mic stand around quite a lot. They're very small stages, weren't they?
They were
And I used to
really,
get really carried away. They said, "Calm down, calm down."
really small studio. People don't realise that weren't in there. And you were the audience was sent from stage to stage, so to make it look like there
Yeah.
were more people in there. I loved it. It was brilliant. I loved the
It was
experience.
weird. So did I. I mean, you literally look 10 feet away and there'd be another band standing there.
Yeah,
It was amazing. But
It was all smoke
yes,
and
the
mirrors,
thing is
wasn't
that
it?
it was so. It was amazing. The whole thing was a great experience. I mean, it was run like Colditz though. It was like you had to stay in your get in your dressing room, stay in your dressing room until you were told. There was nothing in there except like you get like a glass of water.
Can you
Oh, I'm
remember?
telling you, seriously.
Can you remember who you were on Top of the Pops with? Which other bands?
Well, we did it about 5 times in total, but on Big Area, no. I remember one time I did it with Cleopatra. I did it once with Bobby Womack, who was lovely. He was
Oh,
an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
And he came over and he asked me very politely, he said, "Would you mind if I borrowed your radio mic?" Because once every 4 weeks, you'd have to perform, you'd sing live. The
Yeah.
rest of the time, it would be pre-recorded, but it would go out broadcast live once every 4 weeks. So we're one of those, and I used to like, a lot of bands used to like doing those shows. But he came and borrowed my radio mic, and I lent it to him, and he gave it back to me. He's a lovely man, and it smelled of amazing aftershave. And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. You put my aftershave." And he said, "No. The reason you do that is so that you disinfect it, so you don't spread germs to the next singer."
It was
So
quite.
I still don't do that to this day. I started doing it for a while. I used to go around spraying it. And then the
Yeah.
road crew goes, "Stop spraying things on the microphone."
I was going to say, were you dabbing it on your pulse points? Before.
Yeah, I should have done, shouldn't I? I'd thought about it, Just say it smells like Phoenix in here. Stop it.
Going back, Mark, did you always want to get into pop music? Because I read somewhere that you were in the advertising industry, working for a music magazine when you know, formed the band, originally. Melody Maker,
Yeah.
advert.
I had a lot of jobs. I had a lot of jobs. I was a DJ in a club. Well, I was actually started out as a busboy, collecting glasses in a club. Then I became a barman. Then I became head barman, and then I became assistant DJ and sort of technical assistant, and then became like a few nights I'd get to DJ when the DJ wasn't working. And then I started working for a magazine called Zigzag, which started out as a hippie mag and then became a punk mag. Yeah, and that's when I kind of got the idea to form the band. I mean, that's when I really got up close and personal with bands, because they come in the office. Bands like Killing Joke would come into the office. I mean, it was a phenomenal time. It was amazing. The Stranglers would come in, and there were some amazing journalists. Mick Mercer worked there. Chris Needs worked there. Matthew Freud, who has Freud's PR, he used to work there. Yeah. He used to come in on a motorbike, and he used to have a snake around his neck. He used to carry his pet cobra with him wherever he went. Yeah, it was up in Notting Hill, and like everyone was sitting around, drinking and doing whatever they wanted. But bands would come in the office, and so I kind of met these bands and got to ask them questions. And he'd pick up the phone to people, and it would be really, punk legends. So that's when I really got to like bands like Bow Wow Wow.
Malcolm McLaren.
Well, that's right. Well, we actually Zigzag opened their own club up in, I think it was up in Ladbroke Grove, and Bow Wow Wow were the opening act, with the opening on the opening night, when they had C30, C60, C90 go out as a single, and they cost them an absolute fortune, as McLaren would have done. But then Matthew Ashman ended up becoming guitarist in my band years later when I did my Almost album. So so the point is, I suddenly saw what it was like to really get under the skin of the music business, and that's what made me say, I need to do this. I'm the wrong side of the desk. I shouldn't be sitting here selling advertising. I should be one of the bands walking in here talking to the editor, and that just inspired me. So that's where it kind of came from.
Who were your inspirations, Mark, growing up, as a young boy? like in the music industry?
God, there's so many. But I mean, when I was very young, it was Motown initially. When I was 4, I bought
Oh,
Reach Out,
yeah.
I'll Be There by the Four Tops. That was my
Yeah.
first ever single.
Oh, we love
Oh,
it.
It started out with the Four Tops, but then you see, my dad played jazz all the time. He used to play me jazz music. So he'd play me big band jazz. So I really got into people like Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman
oh,
and trad jazz, like Kenny Ballin's Jazzman. I absolutely
yeah.
loved them. They
Yeah.
played real trad jazz. But he also played with people like obviously Duke Ellington,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean, all the great, and people, Sarah Vaughan, and Nat King Cole. So I listened to a lot of that. And then my
Oh,
mum used to play with people like Tony Bennett and Scott Walker and the
yeah.
Walker Brothers. So I'd be listening
Yeah.
to them at the same time. And then, of course, the Beatles. So I was getting all these influences growing up at the same time. But I didn't really listen to rock music, proper rock music, until I got to like 10 or 11. And my brother started playing things like Genesis, Elton John, David Bowie, T-Rex, Steve Harley,
Yeah.
and they all became my influences pretty
Yeah.
quickly. By the age of about 10 or 11, it was Bowie. Bowie is my biggest influence of all time. But
Yeah.
it was Bowie, Roxy. Then for me, it was Iggy, Mark Bolan, Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, Genesis. I mean, but he played me all this amazing music that I would never have heard if it hadn't been for him. Bands like the Incredible String Band and people like Mike Oldfield. So I heard this incredible mixture of music from all different directions
Yeah.
because everybody in my family liked something different. So I was
Mm.
very lucky in that I was kind of exposed to a lot of things. So all of these things had an influence on me, but I really wanted to be a trumpet player.
Oh,
And
right.
then so I started playing the cornet, and then my parents moved. I went to about 14 schools, and we moved house 10, 15, 10 or
Wow.
12 times.
Oh,
That is a
I lived all
lot.
over the country, born in Derbyshire, well, as far up as Newcastle, where my dad was from. My mum was from Scotland. So I lived in dozens of different places.
Is
I
that
never
because of
had,
their jobs, Mark? Was that because of your
yeah,
parents?
because of my dad's job, yeah. So
Oh,
my
right.
dad was a docker started out as a docker in Newcastle.
oh,
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then worked his way up to end up working for Esso. But it meant he
Oh, my
kept
dad
moving across
worked
the
for ESSO back in the day.
No, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, back
That's
in,
really strange.
yeah, that's a
Really very, you
coincidence.
see.
Yeah.
Well,
God
it
rest
was.
his
And so,
soul.
well, we kept moving. So, I mean, I lived everywhere we went kind of from Derbyshire to Nottingham to Sunderland to Newcastle, about 4 different places in Newcastle, then down to Sussex,
Oh,
to
wow.
really rural Sussex, like about 10 miles from 5 miles from Lewes, in the middle of nowhere. Then we moved to Croydon. I mean, it was madness.
You
So
you
as
certainly
a result, I
travelled
never
a
got
lot.
any proper music lessons.
yeah.
I have. I think that's where I got my taste for being on the road from. But I never
Yeah.
got. I never had any proper music lessons, and I never got the chance to develop. So, and then my parents split up, and my mum couldn't afford it, and I couldn't afford it. So the only instrument left to me was vocals. So it became an inevitability that I'd sing.
Yeah. When did you realise, Mark, that you had real strong vocals? At what age were you when you realised you had
Um,
that gift?
well, to be honest, it took me until I was about 20 because when I used to go, I to sing sort of in assembly with everybody else at school, everyone would look at me. I didn't realize it's because I was loud. I just assumed it's because I couldn't sing. Um, and I remember being in like a school musical, just in the chorus when I was about 11. And I'd only just joined the school in Sussex, and I didn't know the words, but no one gave me the words. So, because I was the new kid, I was always the new kid. And they said, "Oh, we haven't got a script for you." So I was supposed to be singing this song with like 20 other kids. And they came up to me and they said, "Look, can you stop singing? Because we can hear you above everybody else and
Oh,
you're not singing the right words."
oh
So
no.
just, yeah,
So
so
would
it
it
really,
help
it
you?
really blew my confidence. I
Yeah.
didn't have anything
Imagine.
at all. And then I got to the age of about maybe 18, 19. And I met a guy in a band called The Doll, a chap called Adonis, or Adonis. He was a keyboard player in a band called The Doll who had a hit called Desire Me. And they were on top of the pops.
Yeah.
Uh, Female lead singer, used to wear leopard skin with a leopard skin guitar. Great band.
Oh,
I became a friend of his, and he sat me down one day and he was playing piano, and we had Hunky Dory on, and I started singing along with it. And he said to me, "My God, you can sing every note on that record. Do you realize that?" He said, "You've got a great voice." And it was the first time anyone ever told me I had a good voice. And he said, "The
oh
reason
wow.
that people don't need to be quiet is because you're so loud."
Oh.
I didn't realize. I think it's probably going to football matches is probably what it is, going to gigs and
Who do
learning
you
how to
support,
shout.
Mark?
Manchester United.
We're
Yeah,
West
cool. Well,
Ham.
look, ah, Oh, there you go. We're
We're
very
hammered.
close to the table, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Our
Not a
drummer
great
supports
team.
West Ham. But I mean, the thing is, of course, not being from Manchester, of course, who do I support? But it's because it was the first team I ever saw when I was a lad, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. My dad took me to see him. That was it.
Yeah.
My dad supported Newcastle, and Man United beat them, and my dad wasn't very happy about that. So I think I started supporting them just to aggravate.
We can't go without mentioning your terrible accident, back in 2004. And I read somewhere that you heard from a witch doctor in 90 somewhere like back in the 90s. The witch doctor predicted that you'd have, some accidents going forward. Is
Yeah,
that true, Mark? Is
it
that
is true. In 2002, it happened. It was in January 2002 that I had an accident. But yeah, I went to see Witch Doctor in Portugal. And I'd signed to EMI Records as a solo artist. And I was doing quite well. I mean, I was getting very well paid, and I was making my own album, and I had an amazing band together, and life was good. Took my mum out to Portugal. She hadn't been on holiday for years, so I took her on holiday. And Anyway, a few odd things started happening. Just a few strange things started happening, like some let's say coincidental. I started having a series of things that were perhaps a series of bad luck incidents started happening to me. I don't quite know how to phrase it, but it was a bit odd. And I had a friend out there, and he said, "I want to take you to a witch doctor, and he's going to bless you and give you the ceremony and get rid of all the evil spirits." And I used to be very into spiritualism when I was younger. I used to do seances and all kinds of things. And he said, "You got some bad spirits." And I had some very odd things. I did some seances in my house when I was a lad. When my mum used to go away to work and leave me on my own in the house, in the flat. And I had some very odd things happen. I got involved with the darker side of things. Let's put it that
right?
way, without putting too
Yeah.
fine. I flirted with Satanism, mainly because I thought that David Bowie was into it, Jimmy Page was into it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it had a great influence on me there.
it was
Yeah.
trendy,
So
wasn't it?
well, that's it. So I kind of flirted with it, and I think I had some. I don't know what it is. Let's just say I had some very odd things happen to me when I was young, very scary things when I was alone in the flat. So windows flying open and all kinds of things, and things moving of their own accord. Yeah, I know, such scary
That's
stuff. So I
scary.
very quickly left it behind. And then I got cursed by somebody. So I went to see this witch doctor, and he gave me this potion to wash myself all over with, and we did all this and did this ritual. And
Yeah.
he said, "Okay, that's going to hold them back, but you're going to have a lot of bad luck in the next few years." He said, "You're going to lose money, and your career is going to go badly, and you're going to get physically very, very ill." And I was like,
Oh God, what
and then a few years later, it happened, and I shattered my heels, ended up in a
oh,
wheelchair for 2 years, and my career kind of
oh,
tanked, and I lost all my money.
oh
And
God.
yeah, I mean, I had some bad luck, but
Yeah.
then having said that, I've also had some incredibly good luck at the same
You
time.
have.
I've had
Yeah,
some
yeah,
amazing career breaks.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
have the lovely fact that I have an amazing band. Our drummer, Paul Davis, Ryan Williams on guitar, Magnus Box on bass. They're amazing musicians.
So
Ollie,
it's a
I've
lot
already
of
mentioned.
positives, Mark. A lot of positives.
Yeah, and I'm a great agent, and I have Ed Stringfellow, and I've got a lot of people that are just really nice to me, and are hardcore fans who are, they're amazing. They're diehard. They come to everything I do, and they really support me. And my very good friend Karen Armstrong and James Downs, who do my social media with me. So I'm really, really lucky in
Really
that I
good
have some people
team.
that believe in me, and my
Yeah, you are
partner
blessed.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, having said it, even though I've had some terrible things happen, I've equally had a lot more good luck than a lot of people get. So I think
Yeah.
it kind of balances out. But yeah,
Yeah.
I had a period when it all looked pretty, pretty dark for
Oh,
me
I
for a while.
know, Mark.
Well,
And
look,
we really admire your positivity because
Yeah.
you kept going through it all, and you're
Thank you.
performing and still doing what you love,
Yeah.
and the audiences really appreciate that.
yeah. And before we go, because we're running out of time, we could talk to you forever. We've got so many questions we could ask you. But we need to talk about your upcoming gigs because you've got one
Yeah,
next week, haven't you? You're starting. You've got the O2 Academy.
I've got two next week. Yeah, I've got
Two next week.
yeah, I'm playing 4 Academy shows. I'm playing the Islington Academy in London on the 29th, Friday the 29th. I'm playing the Birmingham Academy 2 on Saturday the 30th of November. And then the following weekend on Friday the 6th of December, I'm playing at Liverpool O2 Academy 2. And then on Saturday the 7th. I'm playing at Oxford O2 Academy.
wow,
With
busy.
my full band.
Yeah.
And
What can
it's gonna
fans
be great.
expect?
2 hours or an hour and a half probably of heads down, no nonsense, mindless rock and roll probably.
Sounds
It's gonna
good.
be loads of that. But,
Sounds right up our street.
yeah, it is. It's just going to be. It's going to be the entire Big Area album, because I mean, when that was released, that went straight in the charts at #4.
Yeah.
So it went gold very quickly. So I mean, and then it went platinum. So I know people love that album.
Oh yeah, the
And I'm going to play a
energy.
few tracks from the first album, as many as we can. We're not allowed to play for longer than a certain period of time, because obviously there are curfews. But we're going to play as many songs as we can. We'll certainly be on for an hour and a half, and it's just non-stop. I don't do a lot of talking. We sort of chat a little bit between the songs, and we just get on with it, and we play with our full hearts and souls all out there on the stage. We give everything we've got, and we rock till we drop. That's what Jericho shows are about. They're high energy and their full commitment.
Oh, brilliant. What a treat for
Amazing.
fans.
Oh yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely. Oh, thanks so much, Mark.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mark.
We can catch up with you again and ask all the other questions that we were going to ask
Yeah.
you before we run out.
Yeah, anytime you like, let me know. You take good care, ladies. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark.
Lovely to meet you both.
Time for your time on tour.
Have a great
ya.
time.
Namaste. God bless you.
Namaste.
Ciao.
Bye.